A deal on Dickens, who could resist? A stack of Austen, warmly kissed. Golden Age crime tales twist and turn. Every page a treasure to learn. Books keep coming home with me. Piles so tall, they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea. Reading always feels so free.
Hi, my name is Talia. Welcome to Talia Nerds Out. Today I'm doing book tag, the banned books tag with...
I am Marlicia's Meanderings, and we're doing a collaboration.
Yes. This tag was created by... Oh, I had the information, but it didn't print out.
Yeah, we only know who you're tagged by.
So I will try to put it in the description of the video. I printed off my phone, so I guess it chose not to print out that part. So Mom and I were tagged by Andrew, whose channel is You Could Be Reading More.
And I think I was tagged by somebody else as well, but I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was. It came across, and then I got an inundation of people tagging me for things. But I appreciate all of them.
So there are 5 prompts for this tag, and then we're going to probably go off on.
Yeah, and the 6th one is to tag other people.
Yes. So.
And thank you, Andrew, for tagging us. And thank you to the person who tagged me somewhere else. I can't remember who you are. If I can find out, I will try to give Talia the information.
So let me take a drink. All right, number 1. Do you intentionally read banned books? Why or why not? I don't intentionally read banned books. I always see the banned book reading day come across, and
there's such a thing?
Or like a banned book reading month, or like it's actually a thing.
Okay.
And honestly, this is part of me actually rolls my eyes. Like part of me's like, oh gosh, everyone's being so rebellious.
Yeah,
and that's usually my thought, which just sounds petty, but that's usually the thought that goes across my head. Okay, everyone's so edgy, they're going to be reading banned books this month.
It's a kind of a knee jerk for me. Like, if everybody else is doing it, I'm not going to do it.
And especially if it feels like it's being done because it's just like, ooh,
because you want to be rebellious.
Yeah, we're reading banned books.
No, honestly.
Okay, and I know that's like a really judgy, but that's the thought that comes across my brain.
Well, that's the snarky part of us. That's like, no, if everybody's being so, I don't want to do it because everybody else is doing it. And I honestly,
and the thing is, I've done things like that where I've been like, oh, you say that,
I can't do this,
so I'm going to do this. But for whatever reason, I think because it's like a big thing that I'm just kind of like,
well, I think it depends on why they banned the books. I mean...
Well, and I know, but I think part of it is just because it's like, there's like stamps like where people go like, I read banned books. It kind of gives me that feeling of like the people who, like they're like the guys who want to be like James Dean or, like
look at me, I'm so cool.
The I'm so cool thing. And I know that's probably not why everyone's doing it, but that's what it gives the feel of when...
Yeah, we should probably put a disclaimer here that we're probably going to offend somebody.
I'm always probably going to offend somebody.
And that's fine because this is what we think and this is what we are.
So that's usually the feeling I get off of it. And not, like I said, it's not everybody. It's just the general feel of the banned book month and the general feel of the stamps and the stickers that say, I read banned books. It makes me feel like a James Dean kind of like, ooh, I'm so like cool kind of thing. And if something is like, I'm so cool kind of thing, I kind of head in the opposite direction because I just roll my eyes.
Well, it's kind of like, I guess, the feel of the bandwagon effect of I don't want to do anything just because everybody else is doing it. Now, having said that, have I read banned books intentionally? No, I usually don't. There are other things I want to read. And I honestly... I don't really keep an eye on banned books.
No, I don't.
I don't. Generally, if I want to read something in my head, it's not going to be on a banned book. I was very shocked, and we'll find out later at some of the things that were on banned book lists. But in general, no, I'm not going to go out intentionally reading a banned book. I don't.
Now, the closest thing I can think of is, but this was more because I was afraid that things might get changed or altered. Actually, honestly, I guess I could have been afraid that I would lose the book as well. Gone with the Wind.
But see, in my head, those aren't banned books. Okay, those are classics. And yes, I know that's not the question. But to me, this is a very broad question, a broad tag. And so some of the things that, like, I've read Uncle Tom's Cabin, and I have the physical form. I have Gone with the Wind, a physical form, because I don't want it to be changed. But, you know, that's kind of looking ahead, and we don't know what's going to be banned in the future.
Yeah.
So I honestly, to be quite frank, what is that?
That's Genoa. Let me just... There we go. That'll hopefully go to voicemail. They're probably asking about my medication. I've been bugging my doctor to try to get the script for.
Right. Do you need to do that? We can pause.
No, I can do it afterwards.
Okay. I forget where I was going. I don't tend to read things. I want to read things that I want to read, and I don't tend toward things that I don't think that would be put on a banned book list. It's just not the way I'm constituted. And I've come to find out, if we will find out later, that maybe that's not the truth.
Well, like I said, I think for me it's more of the knee-jerk reaction, because there's things like read banned book months and people making a point of reading them, that my knee-jerk reaction is just going to be like, okay.
My thought is there are too many books out there that I want to read.
But like I said, I'm probably not being fair, because I'm looking at lists now and I can see where things
But my point is, I wouldn't necessarily go out searching them out. If it's the classic, I might go and check to see, why it was on the banned book list. But if I just, like, I'm going to pull one out of the lists, for me, that would be an absolute no-brainer, is 50 Shades of Grey. I will not go out and look at that just to read a banned book. It's not something I'm interested in.
Right.
Okay? And I wouldn't go look at it.
Now, I'm going to go on to the second question. Tell us about your favorite banned books. Now, these are books I would have had to find out after the fact were banned. And the first one that comes to mind, honestly, is To Kill a Mockingbird, which popped up multiple times. I think I have a list that has from the American Library Association that breaks it down by decade. And I think it came up every decade.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't get that. And we'll talk about that when we get through the tags.
I think that was the probably my favorite banned book on that list. I mean, and there were other good books on there, but that was the standout for me.
And I had two. They were tied. The first one was A Wrinkle in Time. I absolutely loved A Wrinkle in Time.
I liked Wrinkle in Time, but it wasn't like if I would say, my favorites.
Well, A Wrinkle in Time is what got me into reading. A Wrinkle in Time, I absolutely loved, still love. Don't care for the other ones as much, but I loved A Wrinkle in Time. The other one was Jack London's A Call of the Wild. Why that's on the banned book list, I have no earthly idea. It came up on a couple of lists, as did Wrinkle in Time. I absolutely love that book. I guess we should mention, we read, I don't know if you finished reading it, but I read his Hunger Games.
Oh, yeah, I've read the first one, yeah.
Absolutely love Hunger Games.
And I do enjoy the first one. I intend to read the other ones, I just haven't gotten around to it. And I was actually rather surprised to see that on the list.
Yeah.
But, okay, share a story about book banning. I don't really have a story about book banning.
I don't.
I mean,
we're boring. I mean,
for one thing, I was homeschooled, so it wasn't really something that was going to come up. But
I mean, the closest thing I have, I don't remember which book, so it loses some of its potency, but I remember my parents saying, "You're not reading that book," even if they read in class. I think it was Catcher in the Rye. Or no, maybe it was Catch-22. Maybe it was Catch-22. This is why it loses some of its potency. But there was one book in high school, my parents said, "You are not reading that book if it comes up." And I'm not sure which one it is.
Then there's, which book would you memorize to save it from the censors, a la Fahrenheit 451? Now, and I thought about this, and I was like, okay, for one thing, I have a bad memory, so I never would be able to. But I know that the closest I'd be able to come to being able to memorize any of them would probably be the Psalms.
Yeah.
But if they already had someone who memorized the Psalms, they said to the guy, main character, when he comes and he wants to join the group, they're like, well, what book have you memorized? And he said, well, I memorized parts of the Bible. And they're like, well, we already have a guy who did this. What? And he was able to have something that they could use, so he's allowed to join them.
Yep.
Because he would then be their repository of that particular. So if they had the Psalms, and I didn't have the Psalms they didn't already have, I would love to be able to memorize something like To Kill a Mockingbird.
I would go to another book of the Bible. I don't know which one. Whatever they needed would be fine, except for which one is it that has all the cubits and cubits and cubits? But
Oh, that is that Leviticus?
I think it's Leviticus. I mean, I would do it if they needed it, but maybe Isaiah or Sirach or
Proverbs,
Luke, Gospel of Luke, for things I would. That was my first.
Yeah, because realistically, I was like, Psalms I could probably.
Yeah, Psalms I already have some of them memorized because
exactly.
we do it so often. And different parts of the Bible I do have already memorized. I would have to, put chapter and verse to them. The other thing, if I had to do a book, maybe A Wrinkle in Time, maybe Call of the Wild. I don't know, something like that, where it's just, yeah. That's kind of a question that I would have to give more thought to, and I think I would be really torn about what it would be.
And then, are there any books that challenge your beliefs about book banning? Be honest, tell us more. Okay, I'm going to cause controversy because I don't believe that there should be. Now, this isn't so much about banning. This is about having something age appropriate and having parents involved. I don't think that it's the school's place to be promoting or teaching alternative sexual lifestyles. Honestly, I don't think they should have anything that's essentially pornography in the school. The kids shouldn't be,
regardless of whether it's alternative or not.
I don't want the school being the ones who show children sexual positions. Not to go into more detail, but there are books that there have been parents who've gone before school boards like, hey, and they would read it aloud, and the board didn't want to hear it because they thought it was inappropriate. Like, well, this is what you have in our library. So that kind of thing is like, I don't think that the books, I don't want to say the books shouldn't exist. I just don't think that they should be in the school necessarily, because that should be the parents' place to teach that.
I think that you have to be very careful. I think banning is a very slippery slope.
Right, and what are you talking about with banning?
Whoa.
Sorry.
Okay. I think banning is a very slippery slope. Now, people who've heard me speak on videos, either with Talia or on my own videos, know that I am a proponent of some kind of warning. Okay, if you want to have, complete freedom of speech, but the same courtesy that is extended to authors to be able to write whatever they want, by that same courtesy, you should extend to people who don't want to have to be surprised by opening up a cover and seeing something that offends them. It can be as broad as religious content, adult situations. It doesn't have, whatever it is, to give the person, if you want to put family friendly as opposed to everyone else.
And actually, you need to give the example for
right. My daughter,
me.
Not this one, the other one, my older one who's special needs. We were in the base library, an Air Force Base library, homeschooling. I said, don't go past the children's books. No problem. Shouldn't be any problem there. She came across, I still don't know what the book was, on abuse, on mental abuse, physical abuse, the whole 9 yards. That book scarred her for life.
She was seriously damaged by it.
She has been seriously traumatized by that book. She's now 40. That happened.
She is developmentally delayed.
She is developmentally delayed, but that's not the point.
She should have been safe in the children's.
She should have been safe in the children's section of the library. There was no warning. It was not properly shelved, in my opinion. It should have been put somewhere else. I'm not saying that book shouldn't be available.
There's important information.
Maybe there's important information that needs to be, has to be to be discussed between a parent and a child, or a teacher and a child, or some trusted adult and a child who's having issues. It should not be there for a young child, or a developmentally delayed child, or a special needs child, or perhaps a disturbed child, just to come across as they're looking for books. Okay? That should not be there. Okay? I'm not even saying it should be banned. There should be a warning. There should be a proper shelving of it.
Maybe have it higher so a young child can't reach it.
Now, there is the possibility that somebody
Yes.
didn't put it in the right place after they looked at it. I am willing to admit that.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is, if that book should be shelved somewhere where it will not impact someone, it should not be impacting without the proper parental guidance or adult guidance. Okay? Where my daughter is still traumatized. She doesn't trust men. She thinks abuse is a common occurrence everywhere.
Right, and we should qualify. We're not saying that there are definite issues with abuse. She sees it around every corner. Let's put it that way.
She sees it in colors.
In excesses.
Viewpoint. Not saying in the house.
No.
But she will walk in a place where there are men, and she will go to the other side. Why are we going to the other side? I don't want XYZ.
She basically acts like someone who has been
abused
because she read that and it scarred her.
Mm-hmm.
She will, like, in her head, everybody's looking at her. Everybody is, because she's in the egocentric development.
She's developmentally delayed. So
so
everything is about her.
And so because she read that, she internalized everything. And yes, I know she's not everybody, but
it's potential. For young kids, for like I said, I think banning books is a slippery slope. I don't think that's a good idea. But I do think there should be some kind of warnings. I don't know if there should be ratings, so I don't know how you would do that. But there has to be some kind. You have to be able to make it safe for other people. Just because the people who write it, or people out there who read it, and this is going to make me unpopular, and I don't apologize. This is my point of view. You have to give the same courtesy for the writers and the people who don't have a problem with it. You have to give the same courtesy that you give to them to everybody else who might find something objectionable, might find something traumatic, or whatever.
And actually, believe it or not, a fan fiction site actually does this well. And it's called Archive of Our Own. And it was actually started, apparently I found out that it was started because someone wanted to write really kind of disturbing kind of stuff, but they created a really great warning system where you could then filter and read things based off of, okay, I don't want this kind of stuff, but I am interested in this kind of stuff. And it made it so people who want that stuff could find it, and those who didn't want that stuff wouldn't run into it. And it creates what feels like a very safe area to and take the fan fiction you want. Yes, the quality's still going to be fan fiction quality. You can't.
It doesn't matter. That's not the point.
The point is that, that can be done. I know you have physical books in a library, so not everything.
Okay, physical books. I walked into Walmart. I picked up a book and I look at, it's going to look great. It's fantasy. I opened up the book. Within the first couple of pages, the author says, if you don't like this, this, and this, I have this, this, and this in my book. It might not be for you.
Which was amazing.
I thought that was amazing. That author had enough courtesy, enough confidence in her own writing to let someone like me know that I might not like this book.
And honestly, it benefits the writer too, because the writer doesn't get then bad reviews because someone gets surprised by something that they don't want in the book. So then that keeps their ratings up.
Right. And depending on what she's talking about, I wish I could remember the author, because I don't remember exactly what she put in there that she was warning us about. But if it's just that I know I'm a PG-13 kind of person, PG person, but maybe this is slightly more R. If it was just slightly more, I would not hesitate to say, okay, I wouldn't read this because I don't like this kind of stuff. If you have a slightly higher tolerance, then you might like this book. I would not hesitate to say that. Now, if it's something way off the chart, I probably wouldn't, but I would still say that this author is
at least a courteous
writer, that you might want to keep an eye on the books just in case they write something else that might be more palatable to people like me.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of respect for that author, and I really wish I could remember her name, because I thought that she set the bar very high for other people to say, okay, people might not like this. I don't want to cause them distress. And
like I said, it honestly does benefit the author as well, because they're not going to get a negative reviews from people who got unpleasantly surprised and then, express that in the book reviews.
Right.
You're gonna get the kind of readers who are interested in what she is writing.
Right. And I think something we have to consider when we're looking at book bans, I don't think bans are a good idea. Okay. I know that the Bible has been on the book ban list, and I think myself, I think that's ridiculous, but I'm a Christian. So I don't think books should be banned, but I think that you have to have some kind of warning or I don't know what you call it. I'm not a trigger warning. That word bothers me. I don't understand.
But there has to, it comes out, it's sounding the same as that, but people need to know what's going to be in there, because not everyone wants the same content.
Right.
And if there are things that might be inappropriate for certain age groups, or things that make a large swath of, if you're a pretty good idea that a large swatch of the if a decent amount of people might be uncomfortable with this, it doesn't hurt to say, hey, this is a book that has, well, like you see in the back of movies, has sexual content.
Right, and that's why I'm advocating. Now, you might say, okay, that means you're going to have all these. No, not necessarily. If you have you have a religion section, then you know that these books, Catholicism, Protestantism, Hinduism, they're going to have religious content. Okay?
Right, of course.
You know that. You don't have to put religious content. But if it's something where you don't expect to find it, that might offend somebody.
Well, the example is they show people who, I've seen this come across a couple of channels, for people who read romances. There's some that are meant for young adults and some that are meant for adults that are what's called spicy. And their covers look almost exactly the same. And it's catching the young adults who were trying to read age appropriate. And by young adult, a lot of times that is the teen audience. And so you're getting kids that are reading something that really is not probably appropriate for that age.
Right. And I do have a problem with some of the covers that are trying to entice younger readers into things that maybe the parents wouldn't want them to read if they're like minors and things like that. And I'm sorry, I am a big proponent of the parents keeping an eye on what students read.
Well,
their
because
children read.
And that goes into another topic that I wanted to talk about is the parents. This is their child. It's not the school's child, the library's child, XYZ. This is the parent's child. So the parent is the one who gets to determine what the kid reads, because, or what's appropriate for the kid to read. Because honestly, yes, that might seem for some people to be restrictive, unnecessarily so, but that's the parent's job to form that child.
It's not anybody else's prerogative, and it's not their place to.
It's not their right.
It's not their right. If parents have the responsibility of bringing up their kids,
and
too many times parents cede that right.
And what you read very much forms who you are, and that's why I actually have a problem with some of the trash that's coming out now. Not just even that. I'm not even just talking about the spicy and the bad, the stuff that
you're talking about bad writing.
I'm talking about bad writing, because what it's doing is it's stupefying us, because we aren't challenging our brains. We're not thinking in a deeper way. We're not even our vocabulary goes downhill, because I notice and you notice this too, actually you pointed out first, when I read a lot of a particular author, they slip into my writing, they slip into my thinking. I've been noticing with Austin, for example, a couple of the words that we wouldn't use that way anymore.
I think that's a natural thing for people.
It slips into my brain. That's how I think. It's become a part of the fabric of how I think. So if we're reading trash, it's going to be the fabric. It's going to form us. Even as adults, you're always forming to a certain extent. But imagine then you have it for kids. So
sponges.
The kids are sponges. And so the parents do have the right and should be the main person who decides what was being sucked up by their children, by their sponge. That's their decision and nobody else's. So that should be run by the parents. And that's where you go into, is this being banned, or is this just, should there be alternative books provided for the parents to choose? Because I know that some parents are more strict than others.
I think sometimes there's a reason for that. I think sometimes that's a good option to have.
Right, because I mean sometimes what one family might see, even like people who are on the same wavelength for the most part, some families might be like, well, that's a little bit extreme. Mm-hmm. So I mean, there's never going to be people who completely agree. Even people who agree on most things, some are going to be more extreme, some are going to be less extreme. So options are good, or like there's got to be ways to make sure the parents have the control of the learning. And I know part of the problem is the parents who choose to be hands-off.
Right, and that's another issue.
And that's a whole other issue altogether. We've already talked about warnings, maturity ratings versus banning. Now,
I wanted to bring up something that's not, it's a little bit different, and that is changing, or
I actually was just about to bring that up.
Not wanting to, just because certain people or a certain group of people don't want to talk about something, or they don't want it to be, you can't change what happened. And you have to learn from what happened.
What I've called this is an insidious beyond banning books.
Yeah.
Because this is when you go in, and I read several articles about this in researching this topic, because I chose Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None,
right,
which was initially 10 Little Indians.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to be fair, I don't have a problem with the title And Then There Were None, because that was changed during her lifetime.
Right, and it was changed for a reason that I think was good.
And even if, I have no problem if the author is involved in the change in the title. Part of my problem is with these changes is when people are going back in time and the author has no input. So this is who gets to be the arbiter of changing someone else's work. That's
whether it's a title, whether it's stuff in the book, that's not their place.
And you didn't write that book, so leave it alone. If you don't want to read it, or you don't read it.
Yeah, that's something really important, because just because you're offended by something that was written 50 years ago, if it's not obscene or hate or whatever, these things were products of their time. And we, by trying to change everything and trying to make it more politically correct or palatable or whatever no, it shouldn't be written that way, maybe. But that was a period of time, and we need to know about it so we don't repeat it or whatever.
And even if it's hate, then you're going to be like, now we have a conversation about this.
You can't shy away from it.
And also, if you decide, okay, this isn't something I want to read, then you just choose not to read it, or choose not to have your child read it. Again, that comes into the parental control of what their children read.
And what do you ban? Banning? You wouldn't want to have maybe something that's pornographic that came out or whatever. I wouldn't either. Do we ban it? Well, part of me says you should. Part of me says no. Put it where it can't be accessed
easily.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think that you should you read it? I don't think so.
Have it marked?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that people know what they're getting into.
Would I love to get rid of it just on my viewpoint? Yes, of course, but can't do that. It's not, it's freedom of speech, at least in this country.
Mm-hmm. Because that's a very slippery slope that you run to. And I had chosen And Then There Were None / 10 Little Indians because now this book does have quite a history with changing the name. The initial name was
I don't want to say that.
I'm going to do is N-word. I'll say
the N-word.
10 Little
N-word.
N-word. And that was changed for the American audience to be 10 Little Indians, because it didn't have the same connotation, not the same, it didn't have the same cultural weight in England that it did in America. Then it ended up being changed all over eventually to And Then There Were None, still during Agatha Christie's lifetime. Why did she name the original that? Well, the original was based off of, I guess it sounds like it was a song that was the
a
original
song.
title.
Yeah, it was written in the
But apparently now I don't think they've ever found the original version, but there are like I guess snippets of this song in different places, and that was the original title of the song. And I guess there are versions out there as well that were the 10 Little Indians. My problems, and I know I don't have a problem with the fact that it was changed during Christie's lifetime. It was changed during Christie's lifetime. She had input. Then when it was changed afterwards, when later on I read 10 Little Indians, and it's been changed to 10 Little Soldier Boys. The island is no longer Indian Island. It's no longer got the Indian figurines that are being knocked over. You're the poems are being changed. So it's not even just the title. You're changing parts of the actual text, and Christie didn't have input. Would Christie have agreed with the change? Possibly.
Maybe,
because I mean she agreed with changing the
I have my doubts for that change though.
But I'm not going to say that she wouldn't, because she could have. But the point is, I don't agree with going into a work that has been already published and you're deciding for the author.
Especially so far after the fact.
Like, the author's not alive, author doesn't have input. Who gets to be the arbiter of that? Why do you, when does it end? What books, do we change the Song of Solomon? Do we change, what books do we decide, anyone can be offended by anything. I could go and decide I don't like that book that says derogatory things about Catholics. Someone else, there are so many groups that could be possibly offended by anything in any books. What books?
We need to be able to read the books that we want to read and discuss them like adults. Okay, we can't discuss things, we can't learn from things if we just sweep them under the carpet, change them, or pretend they don't exist.
Because the argument that I saw that people were saying is well, yes, you can't ignore that it existed, but, this basically trying to claim that this does some sort of damage. And it's okay, I think that if you're damaged by something that happened in history, just reading about it and reading something that, okay, it is, it would be objectively offensive to, if you have characters doing slurs against Italians, which I have seen that in Christie's work, or against Asian people or whatever. But the thing is that was the flavor of the era, and I don't think you take something from the book when you do that, when you infuse it with now.
And you also lose some of your authenticity. I'm half Italian.
And
I'm half Italian, half Colombian. I've read things like Serpico and all that kind of stuff where they call people wops and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't bother me. Now, if somebody called me one, probably. But you're reading a book set in a time period. The authenticity of what they would be saying is upheld by what...
I think I would actually kind of laugh because, you called me what?
Yeah. I mean, come on.
What are you, in the 40s?
Well, my point is that you have to allow for period pieces that were written. They weren't period pieces then. They were...
Well, that was the era.
Time. Or even if they were written as period pieces and period pieces, and they've done the research and that's how the people spoke, then that's how they should be left, because that's what the author intended. That shows the flavor of the era. You can't just ban it because it offends you. If you
even change it when it offends.
Because you can warn it. You can put a warning.
Because part of the problem is being changed like that as well is people don't realize, at least when you ban a book or challenge a book, that the original still is there. When you're changing a book, the insidiousness of it is you might eventually not even realize what the original was. So Christie's original words could eventually just not be there.
And that's why Talia and I bought things like hard copies of Uncle Tom's
And that's
Cabin,
the closest thing we come to the band. But we were talking about the start.
But they weren't banned when we bought them. We were just afraid that they would go away in their purity.
Yeah.
We have some Agatha Christie's that we got that way.
Because I know I've read all the Christies, pretty much. not all. There are still some, but pretty much
I've
all.
read quite a few of them, but not all.
And I know that there is stuff in there because that was the era. And
I have a problem with the occasional God's name in vain. I don't like that. I cross it out because
I told you about the one that I when I purchased Murder in the Air / what's the other Death in the Clouds, where the person who last read it went through and they
and I don't do that normally except for God's name in vain. And it's funny because I said, I don't know what kind of a view Agatha Christie had of Americans, because almost every time that comes up, it's an American.
Her father was American.
Was he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he did that a lot. I don't know.
I don't think she, if I remember correctly, she didn't grow up with him very long. Like, I think he died early, as I recall.
Okay.
So it's not like she knew him super well.
But that irritates me a little bit, that every time God's name comes up, it's an American. And really, it annoys me.
But, yeah, so that's where I do almost see, more than the banning even, I find the changing of works to be more insidious. But then here's another question then. And this was a thought process I was thinking of. The difference between changing a book, like an adult version of the book, and then doing things like making a children's version,
different.
Or when you adapt it to graphic novels. I find that to be different because you aren't
children's books. You need to have it at the level that they can understand it. You want to whet their appetite for the adult book. So,
and that's the way I feel about the graphic novel ones as well, because
Yeah.
that was even the point that was made in the back of the Three Musketeers that Marvel had put out. And they said, like, this doesn't have everything because we simply don't have the ability to get everything in here and be huge, but we're hoping to whet people's appetite and send them to the classic. And that's what the other one, that's different to me than going like, this is offensive to my modern sensibilities, so this should not exist.
And if you don't want to expose kids to that, I can see that being left out of a children's book. When they go to the classics, they should be able to read it if they're older.
Yeah.
In that form.
Because I also don't believe, like, we shouldn't be going through Mein Kampf and just, like, crossing things out because there's a bunch of offensive things. Don't read Mein Kampf.
I won't read Mein Kampf. Yeah. I don't, that, and I think that Andrew mentioned Mein Kampf in particular. About, I forget what he said about, but he did mention the book, which is why it's in my head.
Yeah, same here.
So I wouldn't read it. I don't want people to read it. It's not for us to necessarily ban it, but I think that it should be not easily available. And I think things like, I think he was absolutely Andrew was absolutely right about things that should not be made available, like making bombs or how to make, insidious poisons that can kill millions of people. That's not necessary. I mean, that falls under things. There used to be laws like obscenity laws and hate laws and all that kind of stuff. That's dangerous. You don't need to have that out there.
Right. But again, when you're dealing with hate laws and all that, that is essentially banning.
Well, I'm not even saying, I mean, hate laws is one thing.
Even the obscenity ones, that was.
It was a law. I grew up with those.
But I'm saying that is banning.
Yeah, it is. It's banning, and I feel that you have to be really careful about it.
And that's where I feel
when it's in. There's a difference between hate speech and speech that is incendiary, or meant to provoke, or meant to hurt. Like you're going to do something threatening.
Yeah, because I don't have an answer for this, but I do have a question for this. I was watching a video about a fairly recent school shooter who they idolized and used as their example / guides, for lack of a better term, the shooters from Columbine.
Oh God.
And she read their journals.
Yeah.
And she, for that.
How did she get a hold of their journals?
Well, I think they're printed.
See, I don't think that...
Now, here's the question. Is this her problem, or is this... I kind of feel weird about why are we...
I think that's a societal problem, because that is not a book.
No, that isn't.
That's not
Why-
that's not something banned.
Why are we public? Because it's not even like that person intended it to be published, and that's where the interesting thing comes in. Is it banning if it's something the person didn't intend to be published? Now then, you can argue Anne Frank, but this is
But
something
that came out as a book. That actually came out as a book.
right now. This could have. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that.
But then you run this interesting thing. It's like, okay, this goes through their whole, like, this inspired this person. But you could also have someone inspired by the Joker. Do you go and you ban every comic book with the joke? Do you ban the Killing Joke?
I think you have to be really careful about that. That's so out there. Something like the Joker. I mean, he's not telling you how to make a bomb.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like that manifesto that might say, okay, we're going to go and we're going to kill these people because they're these people because we do it this way and this way and this way. Something like that is almost like a how-to manifesto.
Well, and that's why they actually, I don't know if they ever released the complete journals of this particular shooter because of safety concerns for the person ran through beat by beat like their plans.
See, I don't think things like that need to be released. Releasing things that are in courtroom paperwork and that kind of stuff is not always necessary, and that's not banning. That's not books. They aren't writing books. This is diaries. This is plans. This is not books, and I don't think things like that should be made available to the public. Just for the specific reason that there are people out there who maybe don't need much to push them over the edge, and that could be a problem.
Because it's an interesting conundrum to me because you argue Anne Frank, but like I said, once again, if these journals were released as books the way Anne Frank's diary was released as a book.
Let's take a look at Anne Frank. Anne Frank,
who is on banned book lists, by the way.
Is she really?
Yes.
Okay.
I forget which decade.
Okay, Anne Frank, her diary is just a diary of life in hiding. That's not. There's nothing in there for making bombs. Incinerate hate speech.
Even
There's
if
nothing in there.
I think there might have been something about her fantasies, but that was still her.
Fantasies about getting married and stuff.
I don't remember a whole lot. I just remember it striking me as a kid.
Yeah, it wasn't anything.
But regardless, even if it was, it's still different than I'm going to shoot up the whole. But it's like, okay, so I don't know. It's like I feel that I can see where this book did literally influence a person to do a school shooting. I think they killed 6 people.
Who, the original? Or the
I'm
other?
sorry, not the new shooter. She killed. I want to say she did 6. I know she did 2 little kids. I think they were 8 or younger. A substitute teacher. She 5 or 6.
Yeah. See, I think you have to look. There has to be some kind of.
And she had a god complex.
Because this is not. We're straying from banned books. This is not books. This is paperwork, and this is diaries. Until it's been published, Anne Frank's diary.
But I don't know. Like I said, if these journals, if she had her hands on it, they could have been published. They probably were published.
The point is that how were they published? They could have been just released in the newspapers and whatever.
Well, Columbine was quite a while ago. This shooting was recent.
Yeah, we don't know when she read it and how long it percolated.
Well, and she was.
And how long it took to release it.
She was. I don't think she was quite a bit younger than me.
I think that there should be some kind of standards.
Because I can't remember when Columbine was a long time ago.
It was just before we moved here.
And a lot of school shooters were inspired by Columbine.
I think that, and it might not have been just the reading of it, because it was in the papers all the time. There's a lot of notoriety. So what? Do you ban newspaper articles that glorify, in a way, all these kind of people who are shooting?
And that's what I'm talking about. Like, that's where the question comes in with these journals.
Well, that's
why I have mixed feelings about this, because I
think you have to look at the content.
And because I didn't actually read it myself, and I know part of it is her psychology. Because
absolutely, yeah.
Because if you have someone who reads what they want to into a situation, they're going to. An average person who reads that might be disturbed by it, but not do anything about it. But the person who already wants to do something like that might use it as a playbook.
I mean, there's no perfect answer in an imperfect
and
world.
that's why I'm saying, like, this is that book things like that. Because when you compare it then to things like Anne Frank or Mein Kampf, it's like, okay, but we're going to say Mein Kampf, but not these. Where does the line lie?
The line is where you have actual incentives, if you will, actual aids to doing something. I think, Anne Frank never would have, reading Anne Frank would not teach you how to make a bomb to blow up something.
But you can argue that Mein Kampf could inspire neo-Nazism.
And if that's true, that's one of them that maybe should be considered. Maybe the government decides that that's seditious. I don't know.
But then it's like, do you want the government involved in deciding? Like, that's...
But that's...
Then I remember when I read When Books Went to War, and one of the things that they really promoted when they would print these paperbacks to go with the soldiers, like, look, while Germany's burning books, we're sending our guys these paperbacks so they can carry the books with them to war. Look, we are they are, let's destroy speech, let's destroy books. We are the opposite.
But the things that the Nazis were destroying were things that were flying in the face of their beliefs. They were things that didn't support Nazism, like Judeo-Christian stuff, and
some of the stuff was also like things that you and I might be like, oh, that's like they would have destroyed things that we don't agree with too.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's like
they had it's a very difficult portion. Books. You have to decide what books are, and I'm not sure that something like Columbine Diaries falls under books. I think the publishers need to look at that and say, okay, is this just a narrative of what this person was going through, or is this something that goes beyond that and can inspire someone to action of the same kind? And then maybe they say it's not going to be published and there's no banning.
And then you can argue, okay, because this thing already exists, obviously. Now it is out there.
Yeah.
So
now what do you do with it?
Yes. So you can't now doing something that would be banning. It's not just a question of, do we publish it now? Now it's like, this is a book. This is out there.
Do you need to cut this in half?
Yeah, probably. So, the book, you can argue that, okay, the book is now out there. You can't it's been published already. So, do you put warnings on it?
Yes.
But then, okay, so then you're going, no matter what, you're always going to have human nature you're going to have the people who will search out those.
Yeah, but you can't do
there's things that you can't control.
You just can't control.
And that, like I said, runs back into the argument of people can hunt down Mein Kampf and use that as inspiration. People can use the Columbine Diaries. People can read The Killing Joke if they wanted to.
Right, but that's not the point. The point is it's there, okay? You've got to do it for the majority of the people. Otherwise, you drive yourself crazy. You're not going to be able to do it for everybody.
And that's where I think now that the Columbine Diaries, it sounds like they're out there because that's how this person got a hold of them. It's not like they have the person's, handwritten thing because they knew them. So, because it's out there, that means that, okay, now you got to put warnings on it. You got to have people know what, and also, by the way, people might not want to read this disturbed mind. It might be very disturbing, and the people should know what they're getting into. And honestly, something like the Columbine Diaries actually probably be pretty obvious because they probably would say on it, the diaries of the Columbine shooter. No one's going to be caught by surprise by what they're going to...
Unless there was, like I said, a step-by-step. What they might end up doing for something like that is doing what you were talking about and they're saying, okay, this is the diary, but we're taking out how to build a bomb, or we're taking out how to plan a murder, or whatever. And
then you run into my other argument.
I said that, yeah.
So it's a very interesting conundrum because there are things I feel very strongly about for the vast majority of books, and then you throw in things like the Columbine Diaries.
Well, that's why you had those laws, Taya, that were saying that's why we had our rights for freedom of speech, but you can't do this or this or this. And the thing is that right now people don't want to be limited, and you have to have some kind of courtesy for other people. At one point you didn't need to have a whole bunch of that because people just were courteous.
And I do realize that things like you don't want to have easily available in libraries step-by-step instructions of how to build a bomb. let's because there are going to be psychopaths who will use that. And even, honestly, not even just psychopaths, a curious kid.
Yeah.
That's why in MacGyver, they used to leave out important, steps. So that you wouldn't have ingredients. So you didn't have kids building bombs at home, because kids will do stuff like that.
Fertilizer bomb, Mom.
So in that case, then it's just a very interesting thing. I think that it's not so much in that case banning. The book will, the book can exist, but maybe like some things do need to be not.
You don't have to have access to everything. We don't have to have access.
So
to
does that bring us back down to the banning? What constitutes banning? Is banning saying the book can't exist, or is banning saying that you shouldn't have access to?
I think banning, in the true sense of the word, is saying the book can't exist.
Now, what do you think banning is? Because if you look at the banned or challenged books lists, these aren't books that don't exist. These are books that are either being denied in libraries or being denied in schools. So what does that say about where do we really stand then, is the question.
And I've said where I stand. I don't know what that is.
No, I guess what I'm saying is,
I think we've said ad nauseum where we stand.
But it's interesting because on the one hand, we both agree books shouldn't be banned, and we don't like books being edited. But we also have said, well, maybe these books shouldn't be available.
We've always said that there are exceptions, just like anything else. There are exceptions because they're so dangerous, or they're so inflammatory, or they're so whatever.
So you said
above.
So you're saying inflammatory. So somebody finds.
Well, that's just it. The problem is everybody right now, and I'm not singling anybody out. Everybody seems to be super sensitive, so they're offended by something or other.
Now, I think that the easiest things is like, okay, in schools there shouldn't be books that are pornographic. There shouldn't be things that those are just. That's just providing age-appropriate materials, and also not taking away the parents' right to decide what should be going into their child's mind, and not having them run into something by accident, and now they have to maybe take steps for educating the child they weren't ready yet, or maybe their child wasn't ready for yet. So I think that's a very different situation than talking about what's going to be in public libraries. And then
public libraries, I think they're slightly different, but you also have sections in the library. Make sure those sections are what they say they are.
Right.
Not that.
And I think also what would be useful that is having, and this could be expensive, but having separate rooms. So it's not like you just.
Some of them do.
And some of them do. And I am thinking of a specific library when I'm saying that. No, they did have specific rooms. It was a base library, and it's like that is useful because then the kid doesn't accidentally wander in the next row into something they thought they were in the kids section.
Even a separate section. Our library here has our new library. Well, it's not new anymore, but if you go into the library, everything's here, and then this section over here is children's books.
Right. It has to be very clear where it ends and where it begins, so someone doesn't get unpleasantly surprised, because they should, just as much as, and we said this, just as much as people should feel that they have the right to publish their books and should have their books be able to be seen, the people who don't want to see those books should be able to not have to read those books by accident or have their children exposed to those books by accident. Or even if
sometimes by design.
By design. There should not be teachers deciding for the parents what the kids get to read,
or the librarians, what they're going to be exposed to.
Right, that should be the parents' choice. And I think then certain books that maybe there is, like I said, if you clearly mark, I'm not saying like kids' books that some parents might not like shouldn't be in the kids section. Those should be marked a certain way, so
right.
That they know what's there.
Well, clearly marked. I mean,
and okay, if the kid might still run into it, but it's a kid's book, and then the parent could sit down with them and be like, "Hey, let's have a conversation," and that falls right into what the parents should do, and that is another conversation. Parents should be involved in their children's education anyway, because when you have this hands-off
in their children's life,
when you have this hands-off attitude towards your children's formation and expect the school to basically raise your child, then that's creating this issue where the teachers are being forced into a situation which really they shouldn't have to be. They shouldn't be the ones who have to decide how the child should be formed because the parents aren't doing
That's
it.
another situation.
Yeah.
Another topic too.
But yeah, so I just had a lot of thoughts on this, particularly because I think that banned books and the insidiousness of changing books goes hand in hand with each other.
And I think also, and this is a little off topic though, but because my writing background is being told that you can't publish something unless something is put in a book.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's just as bad as taking something out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have that stuff in my book. I shouldn't have to put it in my book.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, they don't have to accept it.
Right.
But if that's the reason that it's a form of discrimination, I don't want to write that kind of book. I think a family, and I'm saying me because I'm talking.
Right. But then I think that that's where you go and either you make, and I don't think that a company should be forced to publish something that because they're a private company.
They are a private company, but if they purport to do all kinds of books,
but they might not be purporting to.
Most of them do. They don't say we don't accept this kind of book. They just say you can't have the book. Mm-hmm. Okay, now maybe that's changed, but my point is that you should not be told that you cannot have your book out there unless you have X amount of this kind of scene,
because
this kind of character.
This has been something for ages. That's why so many authors have been self-published, because either someone didn't see the value of it or they wanted something different, and then the author blew up or whatever.
Well, it's something that is the flip side of banning is mm-hmm. that you can't. If someone says, "I'm sorry, you're not going to be published unless you put this in," mm-hmm. that's the way. And that you can self-publish. Not everybody has. And I'm not even talking about that they're not writing well. It's just that they don't have that stuff in. Mm-hmm. And they don't think, they won't give them a chance. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's concerning as well. It's kind of the, preemptive banning. I don't know.
Well, it is controlling what's going out there. But again, that's one of those hard things where a specific publishing house gets to decide what they put out.
Well, I'm not talking about the fact that it's a specific. If you have all the publishers uniting and saying we're not going to publish this kind of book, then you are effectively silencing.
I don't know. I'm not sure that all the publishers unite and do anything.
No, I'm saying that it comes across as uniting. I'm mm-hmm. not saying that they collude together to do it. I'm saying they all decide that this is what we're selling and this is what we're going to do. That makes it effectively limiting. This person cannot write what they want to write.
Well, honestly, if it becomes too obvious, you're just going to get the situation like you have with Disney, where you have the audience, if they don't give what they want, they're going to push back.
Well, I haven't seen it change in Disney that much.
Well, nothing has done well.
I didn't say that it didn't do.
That's what I'm saying. It is having effect because
it's having an effect, but they're not doing anything.
They're making some changes.
No, I haven't seen any.
Not significant, but they're making
mm-hmm.
some. But yeah, so as
you can tell, we're very opinionated.
I think that again, just as we should have the right to decide mm-hmm. what we want to read, and the author should have the right to decide what they want to write, the publisher doesn't have the onus to publish whatever is given to them.
No, of course not. That's why you have. But my point is, it should be based on the quality.
Sorry, we were interrupted.
Okay, I think what I was saying was that it has to be based on the quality of the writing. I know there are some things that publishers won't publish because it, we're talking about obscenity and all that kind of stuff. But other than that. Quality of the writing, how can it be offensive to do something without those kind of things?
But sometimes I also think of, and this, I'm going to compare this to like hiring practices. Mm-hmm. Sometimes someone might not get hired, not just because they might have all the qualifications for the job, but maybe they're not a good fit for other reasons.
Right.
The book might not be a good fit for what we publish something of a certain type. You don't fit.
I'm assuming that they publish those kind of books just with whatever it is they want in it. Now, I'm not obviously if they're children's, they write adventure novels for adults, they're not going to take a children's book. I get that. But if you have a publishing house that does all kinds of books, and they do children's book or whatever, and you have a family-friendly book and they don't want it because there isn't stuff in it, that is essentially banning a book before it happens.
But then here's another argument. Publishers are in the business of making money.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they feel like the book is not going to make them a profit, that might be another reason why they don't accept the book.
That could be, but
so should the publishing house, which by the way doesn't necessarily care about your book and its content, should they take a chance on your book when their bottom line is they're not, if they're being a pure business and they're not something like Ignatius Press, which has a particular a mission in mind.
If you're a book publisher, you want to be able to serve as many people as possible. You should think about the fact that you might be cutting off a good sizable percentage of people who want to read that kind of material, and who wanting to read that kind of material and finding that you have it might bring along people who read other kinds of material that you do sell and you want to sell. I think that it's not a very sound business practice.
I just think it's an interesting conversation simply because yes, I have like 3 layers on. And I'm getting warm.
And we probably should wrap this up.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's just, I do want to just have people consider that question. It's like, do we have any more than we have the right to say, ban this book? Do we have the right to say, you must publish this book? You must publish.
I'm not saying that you must. I'm saying that out of hand, if you have, you're taking the idea that they don't take these kind of books. Mm-hmm. I am taking the idea that this is a publisher that takes these kind of books, but it doesn't want the story unless it has this in it. They have fantasies galore, mm-hmm. but they want this in it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how often that happens.
I've seen it happen with, I was reading something, or I don't know, it was a while back, but they said
I've heard of things like that for maybe movies.
Yeah.
I've not necessarily heard of that for books.
Well, I'm not saying it's a hypothetical question of the with the way things are going now, the changing of things is not something that's it's not something that's unthinkable, that it might not happen with all the things that are happening where they change things, where they ban things or whatever that they don't like. That it just cut it off at the beginning so it doesn't get published at all. Now, right now we have self-publishing and we do have smaller outlets.
And there also are, actually, to be quite honest with you, quite big outlets that have been around for a while. Ignatius Press, some of these other places.
That's not a big outlet. That's a big Catholic outlet.
It's decently sized enough where I've actually seen booktubers who I do not believe are Catholic who have read some of the history books from there. And
right, but see,
that's not
because Ignatius.
It's not obscure.
No, Ignatius and Sophia Press and Ascension Press, they all put things out on Amazon. That doesn't mean they're a big publisher.
But the point is that it still gets the stuff out there in a way that it's getting seen.
It is getting seen, but they can only put out so many.
Mm-hmm.
They're smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I just think it's, like I said, an interesting question because I think that, first of all, this is a bit of a straw man simply because we don't know that anyone is actually demanding this of authors.
Not yet. Yeah.
But it's a bit of a what if scenario.
Well, I said as much. Hypothetical.
Where simply because if only because they don't want to cut off their audience for children. They're already not going to have.
But we've already talked about the fact
that
the covers and the content of children's books are starting to be inappropriate.
And absolutely, well, it's not the covers that are inappropriate. They're hiding things that are inappropriate because they're aimed at children.
Well, we're talking about the covers for the spicy romance.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. The covers themselves aren't inappropriate. They're inappropriate for the content that's is within, because they're cartoon covers, which make them think that they're getting a young adult book. If it was a
That's not what I understood. Okay.
No. So, okay, here's what the issue...
No, I understand it now.
Yeah, because the problem is, if it was a steamy cover, yes, you don't really want to see that, but at least you know the content inside. If you have those typical, like... It apparently was the same model for a lot of them for a while. I forget, he was an Italian guy, apparently, with long hair, and he was like... Fabio.
Like Fabio, yeah.
Fabio, that's exactly what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
So, if you saw something with Fabio on it, with, his bare chest and a woman, like, draped over him, you know what that is. But
a lot of the romances used him.
If you have something that looks like as a cartoon romantic cover, it looks like something you might get a young adult book, and it's hiding something that would normally have been in a Fabio, something with Fabio on it originally. That's where the problem comes in, because it's essentially lying to you with the cover, because it's the opposite. It's coded child. It's coded to aim.
That's why I didn't understand what you were saying the first time. It didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that's why I think it's trying to pull in the younger audience, because like I said, it's almost more. I actually almost rather have the Fabio covers, because at least I know. Oh my gosh, I don't want that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Versus, and even the kid can be then told, if this looks like this, you're not to read that.
Yeah, we're trying to get in a series worth of podcasts with this one podcast. But, we need to.
Yeah, and I'll wrap it up in a second. But yeah,
you're gonna get flair.
Because even my sister knows that if certain things are in a book now, and mom says she's not to read that, she'll put it away and not read that. But if the book is masquerading as something else, that is a problem.
And she's found a couple where she was disappointed because she was reading the book, and she's gotten to the point now where she starts reading some, I can't read this anymore, and she tosses it on her own.
Yeah. But yeah, I would appreciate books doing warnings, because I've been caught by surprise, unfortunately, where I've gotten really into the book, and then I discovered that there was full-on sex scene, and I had read the full Amazon, excerpt.
I read the excerpt. Sometimes I get the free chapter or whatever, and I would get attached to the characters and get attached to what's going on, and then they'd put adult situation or God's name in vain or whatever. I would appreciate a warning. It doesn't hurt the writer, and it's common courtesy.
Yeah, I mean, and
it's not banning the book.
No, it is. It turns out best for everybody. And if you have to sneak your book in, then you're
obviously not proud of what you're writing.
And you're also kind of a scumbag. Because honestly,
I wouldn't have said that. I might have said a little bit cowardly, but
because if you are trying to trick people, and I don't think that everyone thinks of it that way, but if you are the ones that I'm particularly going a look side eye at is the ones who have the covers that are aimed at young adults. And from what I understand, the authors aren't choosing the covers.
Oh, okay.
It's the publishing houses that choose the covers.
But they must have final say.
Not necessarily.
Ooh.
Apparently, that is not the case.
That's another issue.
Because I was listening to some of the people who were saying, like, no, it's the publishing houses that decide. So that's why sometimes the covers won't even match what's inside the book all the time.
Yeah. That's not fair to the authors. I know you.
So that's why I'm saying, like, I want to pull that back a little bit. The scummy behavior is coming from the people who choose the cover. So that would be,
it's exploitation.
So I'm not going to put that on the author who might not necessarily have the final say.
Right.
Because that's not
especially a new author.
Right, especially a new author who they're just happy to get, published. They might really prefer to have a certain cover because maybe it doesn't fit the feel of their book. So I'm not going to say that the author themselves, but I do.
We never make a judgment on the person.
But I do wish that authors would put warnings on their books, if only to avoid bad reviews because of people who are unhappy with them, because they got surprised, because they people will hate review everything for that person potentially, even, which is a them problem probably, but unfortunately it hurts you too. Mm-hmm. You don't want 1-star reviews because people are like, I got surprised and I really wasn't happy about this, and that's a valid
Well, yeah. If
If
you're
you
marketing,
purchase the book,
marketing yourself is one thing, and you
Yeah.
don't put the warnings.
or even if, okay, you don't put a warning and it's a fantasy, you get surprised by something. Yes, you know going into fantasy that, but if you didn't have any warning, you just were hoping to read a normal fantasy, the person could get hit with a 2-star review or less because the reader is disappointed. You can't say that the reader shouldn't review the book because they had a bad experience with it, honestly. And so it just behooves the writer, because then they have the people who want to read the book, and the people who don't want to read that book not reading it.
Okay, I think we should probably end.
I
there.
think we've beaten this horse to death.
I think we have. I hope we haven't bored anybody. So, yeah, this is yours, so you have to end it.
Yes, so thank you very much. I'm quite sure this is quite long. Andrew, I hope this lived up to your expectations, because I know that you wanted to really, you wanted a full-on conversation. This might have gone more than you wanted, but
I hope you're not disappointed.
But yeah,
Andrew was the inspiration.
Yes, because he said that he had actually mostly done this tag because he wanted to tag us and hear us talk about it. So, Andrew, I hope this was kind of
up to your expectations.
Yes, up to your expectations, because this was an interesting conversation. It was very hard not to get Mom not to talk about it before we were doing, because I really wanted there to be a true, and actually we didn't end up using the banned list like I thought we would. But before I close, I want to mention some weird things that are on here. We've all heard of things like Huckleberry Finn being on there, of Mice and Men. But I was surprised by, you mentioned already Call of the Wild. Goosebumps.
Yeah.
The Witches by Roald Dahl.
Where the Wild Things Are.
Captain Underpants.
Yep.
Then there was also James and the Giant Peach. Sorry guys, I had to get rid of my deleted album, because I was kept running out of space. But yeah, I was just saying The Adventures of Super Diaper Baby. Why is that? I mean, I know it's probably stupid, but that doesn't mean
it's offensive.
It's offensive. Because I'm not surprised, even though I don't agree with Fahrenheit 451 or To Kill a Mockingbird. Some of these things that are more shocking to me are actually the ones where, Where's Waldo?
Where's Waldo?
Where's Waldo?
Okay, then.
The Adventures of Tom Sawyer.
And I understand why Hunger Games might not offend, but disturb some people. I don't think it should be banned.
Maybe choose which age group.
Yeah, The Outsiders.
And that's where choosing for proper age groups and making things going for the age appropriate. Captain Underpants for 2010 to 2019, the American Library Association has this marked as the number 2 of the 100 most frequently challenged books for 2010 to 2019. Captain Underpants. Bone, the comic series by Jeff Smith, which I intend to read. Any other surprising ones?
I understand why Go Ask Alice might be on there, but I don't think
The Giver.
I don't think Go Ask Alice should be banned. I think it should be put in an appropriate section. I think it has a lot to say to people.
So there's some things yes, maybe you can have more conversation about, this is where it comes in to talk to your kids or have things age appropriate that your kids are exposed to. But some of these things are just crazy, like Captain Underpants and The Adventures of Super Diaper Baby.
And Where the Wild Things Are.
Where's Waldo?
Where's Waldo?
So yes.
I'm scratching my head.
And like I said, these are 100 most frequently challenged books over 3 different decades. And this is American Library Association, so this is a reliable source. Now, this is going to be all over the United States. I don't know which areas. Sure. Regardless, I don't care which areas. These are really weird choices. But yes,
we're done.
We're done. The only reason why I wanted to bring those up because I was like, darn it, I printed out these lists. I want to bring up some of the weird things, you mentioned Call of the Wild. So yeah. That's really I found, like I said, this is a conversation I'm very interested in
and passionate about.
But I mean, I'm generally passionate about things that I have opinions about anyway.
So am I.
So yeah, thank you very much for joining us, Andrew. I hope this lived up to your expectations.
Yes. Thank you for tagging us.
Yes, thank you for tagging us. Anyone who lasted through this, thank you. Because this was a lot. And yeah, we will see you the next time. This is Marlies Chiz Meanderings, and I'm Talia. Thank you for joining us at Talia Nerds Out. See you next time.
God bless.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Books keep coming home with me, piles so tall they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea. Reading always feels so free.